All right, folks, we fired up. Hillary, welcome to the greatest state in the greatest nation on earth, the Commonwealth of Virginia. And where is Hillary spending her final time before Super Tuesday? Right here in Virginia. Because she knows Virginia is Clinton country. Let me recognize a couple of our folks who are here with us today. The greatest mayor in America. Where's Paul Frame, the mayor of Norfolk? The other greatest mayor in America, McKinley Price, is in the house. Newport News. The other greatest mayor, three of the greatest mayors ever. George Wallace from Hampton is with us. I also want to recognize our great state senator, Louise Lucas, is in the house. Senator Mamie Locke is in the house. Our great delegates we got with us today, Matthew James, Dawn Hester, La Sharice Aaron, where is she? Give her a great round of applause. And the one and only Lionel Spruill is in the house. Dawn Hester's in the house. And we have a special guest who's with us from New York. She is a congresswoman from New York. But guess what? She was born here in Norfolk, Carolyn Maloney. Why would you ever leave Virginia and go to New York? I don't know. New Yorkers go from New York to Virginia. That's what happens. Folks, let me say thank you. Tomorrow is Election Day. And tomorrow night when you turn on that TV and you see that big map of Virginia right in the beginning, let's get a check mark. Hillary Clinton. Because you know elections matter. Just think about Virginia 2 years ago. A large deficit. There were attacks on women. There were attacks on members of the LGBT community. And we've stopped all that. Our economy is back. I just announced the largest surplus in Virginia history. And what did I do with that surplus? I put $1 billion into education to take it to its highest level. More teachers in the classrooms. 2 years in a row, teacher pay, gave pay raises. New Board of Health. All of our women's health clinics are staying open here in the Commonwealth of Virginia. And I'm so proud that as governor, I've restored 16,500 rights of felons who now have the right to vote again here in Virginia. So don't tell me elections don't matter. They matter here in Virginia, and they matter across this country. That's why tomorrow we got to get out there. We got to get our friends out there. We get them to the polls. Because we got a fighter here for us. Hillary Clinton is going to get out of bed fighting for you every single day. She's a progressive who gets things done. And let me tell you this, we're down here in this region, and I'm so proud. You will not have a better fighter for veterans than Hillary Clinton. And Virginia is the first and only state in America that has functionally ended homelessness for veterans in our state. So, folks, we need her to help us do what we need to do on economic development, on job creation, making sure that equal pay for women, all those issues that matter. Are you ready? With your help, the Democratic nominee of the Democratic Party and the next president of the United States of America, Hillary Clinton.
Whoa, thank you so much. you. Thank you all so much. Thank you. I got to tell you, it is great being here with all of you and with my friend and your great governor. Now, I've been following, actually keeping an eye on Terry, and I am so proud of what he's gotten done for Virginia. And there's a lot of lessons to be learned about the energetic, positive attitude. Keep working every day. Try to bring people together even if they disagree. Because you know what? It's all about whether we make progress or not. And that's what we've got to do in our country. So I am very grateful for this man, this governor, my friend Terry McAuliffe. Thank you, Terry. You know, the stakes are really high this year in America. I think you know that. I'm thrilled to have you all out here tonight because I want you to think about the differences between whether we go forward together or whether we watch the progress we've made get ripped away. Now, I personally believe America is and always has been great. What we need to do together is make America whole again, where we are working together. We're focused on making progress together, where we talk about issues, not insults, where we recognize there are barriers that stand in the way of America living up to its full potential and which prevent so many Americans from living up to theirs. I want to tear those barriers down with your help. I want us to clear a path to opportunity and success for every American willing to work for it so that you can get ahead and stay ahead. And that starts with economic barriers. The job that Terry has done here, the fact that so many new economic opportunities have been brought to the Commonwealth, and that more people are working. I think the unemployment rate in Virginia is down to 4.2%, right? But we can't rest on that. We have to keep working every day. More good jobs with rising incomes, and here's how we're going to do it. We have a lot of infrastructure jobs that are needed in America. We need to fix our bridges, our roads, our tunnels, our ports, our airports. Those are jobs that can't be exported. Those are good-paying jobs, and I'm determined to do more of that everywhere across our country. And I'll tell you what, it really does matter not only what you can see that needs to be fixed, but what you can't see. You heard my husband reference what happened in Flint, Michigan, right? A city of 100,000 people, mostly poor, mostly African American, who were drinking lead-contaminated water for nearly 2 years because the governor of Michigan wanted to save some money. And people were taking bottles of dirty, brown, smelly water. They were taking them to the authorities, and they were saying, "There's something wrong with this. My baby's got a rash. I don't feel good." And they were just dismissed and told there's nothing wrong until some doctors began to test folks, particularly the babies, for lead in their blood. And then that's when the alarms went off. We got to fix the pipes under Flint. We also have to fix the pipes under a lot of places in America. It's not complicated to me. One of the fundamental necessities of life is clean water, and we're going to make sure people get it and can rely on it, and that's going to put people to work too. We're also going to change the tax code so we actually provide incentives for you to bring jobs to Virginia and elsewhere in America instead of exporting those jobs. That's the kind of thing Terry's been doing. convincing businesses to come to Virginia, but we need the federal government to be a partner. It shouldn't just depend upon who the governor is. Anybody living in any state should have the chance for a good manufacturing job that gives them a good living. And I'll tell you what, we're going to combat climate change. Now, you know what the Republican candidates say, right? When they're asked about climate change, they all say something like, well, I don't know, I'm not a scientist. Now, there's a remedy for that. Go talk to a scientist, right? You could come talk to a science teacher in this school and learn about climate change. Now, I have concluded after hearing them say this, they don't really believe it. They are doing what the Koch brothers have ordered them to do. And here's the real shame of it. There are millions of job and business opportunities in clean, renewable energy. Some nation is going to be the 21st century clean energy superpower. I think it's either going to be Germany, China, or us. I intend for it to be us. And together, that's exactly what we'll do. And Norfolk has a big stake in this. You're a coastal city, one of the most important coastal cities in our country. And I know how hard your mayor and others have worked to try to figure out what to do. It's important, and it puts people to work. I've set some big goals. We are going to deploy 500 million solar panels by the end of my first term, and enough clean energy to power every home in America. That's why I want to set these goals, because we are capable of doing anything we put our minds to it. And I believe if we once again say, look, we're going to be number one in clean energy, we're going to be inventing the technology of the future, we're going to be exporting it instead of jobs, because that will put more people to work, we can absolutely change our economy and move in the right direction. There's a lot of great opportunities out there. I also want to do more for small business. I want to be a small business president, and I particularly want to help young people start small businesses. Everywhere I go in America, a young person will say, I have a dream to start a small business. I can't get credit. There's too many regulations, too many red tape problems. Let's cut through that. And we also need to do more for minority and women-owned small businesses, because that's where most of the jobs come from. And while we're at it, let's raise the minimum wage so that people can get out of poverty. 35 million people, 2/3 of them women, working jobs where they can barely make ends meet, right? Like you. Well, I'll tell you what, you deserve a raise. People who work full-time deserve to get ahead and not lose hope and be discouraged because their hard work is never paid off. I also want to provide incentives so that companies that are profitable will actually share their profits with their employees. And let's finally guarantee equal pay for women's work in the workplace. Now, everything I've just said, the Republicans disagree with. They don't think we need to have infrastructure jobs. They don't believe we can bring back manufacturing. They don't think we can make a real commitment to climate change and the jobs that go with us. They don't believe in raising the minimum wage, and they don't believe in equal pay. Now, here's what I want you to know. They believe we should go back to the failed snake oil policy of trickle-down economics. I think that's exactly the right reaction. Because, you know, we created a lot of jobs when my husband was president in the 1990s. 23 million new jobs. But here's the really important part of that. Everybody's income went up. Not just people at the top. Middle-class families, working families, poor families. The median family income went up 17%. The median African-American family income went up 33%. We were on the right track, my friends. And what happened? Well, we got a Republican president, and back we went to trickle-down economics, slash taxes on the wealthy, take your eye off the financial markets and the mortgage markets, and you know what happened. The worst financial crisis since the Great Depression. You know, shortly after the '08 election, we had another young, dynamic, Democratic president coming into office. He called, asked me to come see him in Chicago. I didn't know why. Turned out he wanted me to be Secretary of State. But before we got to that, he said to me, "It is so much worse than they told us." It was. We were losing 800,000 jobs a month. 9 million Americans lost their jobs. 5 million homes were lost. $13 trillion in family wealth wiped out. I don't think President Obama gets the credit he deserves for digging us out of the ditch that the Republicans put us into. And you know, the Republicans, I got to give them credit, they are persistent. To be your nominee. I'm going to talk about it every single day. I am tired of them living in some alternative reality. I want to bring them down to earth where they have to take responsibility for what they say and what they do. And the same is true for health care. I will defend the Affordable Care Act. We have 19 million people now getting health care. You know, before it was called Obamacare, it was called Hillary Care. We tried really hard in the early 90s, but the insurance companies and the drug companies beat us. And I'll tell you, after they beat us, I said, we got to do something to help people, because by then I'd heard so many stories of so many families who were just out of luck because the insurance companies wouldn't provide insurance. I'll give you just one quick story because this stuck in my mind. I was at the Children's Hospital in Cleveland meeting with parents of really sick kids, and it was heart-wrenching. And one man said, look, he said, I'm successful. I started a business. I provide health care to my employees and their families, but I have 2 daughters with cystic fibrosis, and nobody will sell me a policy. I asked him, what do they say to you? He said, well, I'll tell you my last conversation. I was meeting with the representative of one of these insurance companies. I explained, here was my income, here's what I could afford. And he just looked at me and he said, you don't understand. We don't insure burning houses. And this man looked at me with tears in his eyes, and by that time they were in mine too. And he said, they called my little girls burning houses. I want you to remember this, because the Republicans have voted 63 times to repeal the Affordable Care Act. But they will never tell you what they would put in its place, because they know you won't like it. Because basically, they want to turn our health care system back again to insurance companies. They can say, you have a pre-existing condition, you're out of luck. Women will pay more for our health insurance again than men. Young people up to the age of 26, you're out of luck. You're not going to be on your parents' policy. That's because of the Affordable Care Act. We really need to think hard about how we improve the Affordable Care Act, get the costs down, go after high prescription drug costs, which is exactly what I will do. But we're at 90% coverage, and we need to get the rest of the way. And we can do this. We've been trying to have some kind of health insurance plan since Harry Truman. And I am so grateful that we got it done under President Obama, and I'm going to defend it. I'm going to make it go even better for people. And another one of the barriers that people face in our country is our education system. It starts the first 5 years because a lot of kids don't have the opportunity for quality early childhood education. They don't have the opportunity for quality child care. They don't have access to universal pre-kindergarten. You know, I always think when decision makers, elected officials, business executives, when they provide things for their own children, but then claim that not everybody else needs it or deserves it, that's pretty telling, isn't it? I want to do everything I can to provide more early childhood education and universal pre-K so more kids can get a good start in life. And I want to work with our teachers and our educators to be a good partner to make it possible to provide quality schooling to every child, no matter what zip code that child lives in. And we are going to make college affordable for everyone. College tuition has gone up 42% in the last 10 years. You name something else that's gone up that high, that fast. It's pretty hard. I can't think of anything else. We've got to get these costs under control, and we've got to make it affordable. So here's my plan. You will not have to borrow money to attend a public college or university because you will have debt-free tuition that will be subsidized and supported by the federal and state government. You will have a chance, if you do national service before or after, either civilian or military, to have it discounted and even forgiven, because I want to remove the barriers to middle-class kids, working family kids, poor kids who want to go to college again. And we're going to tackle the debt problem that already exists. How many of you have student debt? Wow. Can I ask, does anybody here know if they have an interest rate of more than 10%? Anybody? How much is yours? 14. How much is yours? 14. All right, I want everybody here to just think about this with me for a minute. We haven't had interest rates that high for anything in years. I'm meeting young people, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14%, like these two young people right in front of me. You can refinance your car. You can refinance your house. Corporations can refinance their debt. And we don't permit people to refinance their student loan debt. And so they are stuck with high interest rates while everybody else gets the advantage. So here's what I'm going to do. We are going to refinance everybody's debt and bring it down, save thousands of dollars for many of you. And then we're going to move people into income repayment plans. I'll tell you what that is if you don't know, because I want everybody to know about it. You can go online tonight. Maybe you can move right now, even before I'm president. Because that's what I had when I went to law school. Both my husband and I did. We borrowed money, and then we paid it back as a percentage of our income. So my first job out of law school was with the Children's Defense Fund. I made about $14,000. My next job was teaching law at the University of Arkansas Law School. I think I made $17,000. So I paid it back as a percentage of my income, which meant I could take a job I really wanted to do. And too many young people now are stuck because they're paying it back, principal and interest. So we're going to move as many of you as we can into income repayment plans so you get it down to paying it back as a percentage of your income. And we're going to stop the federal government from making money off of lending money to young people and their families to get an education. Now, there is one difference I have with my esteemed opponent. He has promoted free college for everybody, and I got to tell you, I worry about that on two counts. One, if you say it's free, you're never going to get costs under control. The money is just going to flow, and they can keep raising the costs. We got to get these costs down. That's what I'm focused on, because for kids coming up, they should not have to pay that kind of tuition. The second thing I disagree with, I want to help middle class and working families and poor families. I do not want you or anybody else paying taxes to send Donald Trump's youngest kid free to college. I'm not going to do that. If you can't afford to pay, you should pay. I want it to be debt-free, but I don't want it to be free for people who can actually pay for their children. So I think what I am proposing is likely to work and deal with all the challenges we have. Now, it's also important to think about barriers that have to do with who we are, what we care about, what we do. You know, you listen to the Republicans, they've just been on a tear against every kind of right. Civil rights and women's rights and gay rights and voting rights and worker rights. They don't seem to like any of that. So I want you to know where I stand. I support a woman's right to make her own health care decisions. And I will defend Planned Parenthood from these partisan political attacks. I will defend marriage equality and work to end discrimination against the LGBT community. I will defend voting rights, and who thought in 2016 anybody running for president would have to say those words? Voting rights should be the most fundamental citizenship right. I will do whatever I can to reverse and end Citizens United, which is a pernicious, corrupting decision that opens the door to secret, unaccountable money. I will also stand up and fight for criminal justice reform and the end to mass incarceration. And I applaud the governor, because when you have served your sentence, you deserve to be able to vote just like any other American. I will continue to work for comprehensive immigration reform with a path to citizenship. I will defend Social Security against the Republicans' efforts to privatize it. I mean, can you believe it? They still want to turn the Social Security Trust Fund over to Wall Street. That's got to be the worst idea ever. It's not going to happen on my watch. I will defend the VA, work to improve it, to make sure it provides the services that our veterans deserve to have. But I am not going to let the Republicans and the Koch brothers privatize the VA and take away that right to services that should be absolutely sacrosanct. I will also stand up to the gun lobby for common sense gun reform measures. Now look, I got to tell you, ever since I became First Lady of our country, and all the years since, I have gone to too many places where mass killings have happened. And I have sat with too many heartbroken parents and children and others who lost loved ones. You know, when you look into the eyes of a mother who sent her first grader off to school in Sandy Hook, and then the next thing she knew, she got a call saying that there'd been killings in the elementary school. And you know that on average, 90 Americans a day die from gun violence. 33,000 a year. If 33,000 Americans were dying from anything else, we would be putting people together to figure out what we're going to do about that. But instead, the gun lobby intimidates elected officials, preventing common sense measures. So here's what I want to do. I want comprehensive background checks, close the gun show loophole, close the online loophole, close what's now called the Charleston loophole, and I'll tell you why it's called that. You know, my opponent voted 5 times against the Brady bill. He voted for this loophole, which says at the end of 3 days, even if the background check is not completed, the seller has to sell the gun. So the killer in Charleston went to buy a gun. At the end of 3 days, he came back. The background check was not complete, but he got his gun. A day or so later, they found out he should never have been able to buy it because he had a record. He took that gun. He went to Mother Emanuel Church, and he walked in, and a Bible study was going on. And those faithful people welcomed the stranger to the Bible study. He actually sat down. He listened to the pastor and others talking about Scripture. And then he stood up and he murdered 9 people. We had a guy up in Kalamazoo, Michigan, an Uber driver, between picking up and dropping off passengers, went around shooting and killing people. And it really is hard to believe we've given immunity. I voted against it. Senator Sanders voted for it. I voted to say no. Why should this industry be given special privilege over every other industry? What about doctors who save people's lives? What about people who are inventing new technology that will save lives? Well, no, we don't give them immunity from liability, only gun makers and sellers. And then the most absurd of all, you know, we have something called the no-fly list. You end up on it if there's some credible evidence you have some kind of connection with terrorists or terrorism. And the gun lobby has refused to permit the Congress to vote for a provision which basically says if you're on that no-fly list, you can't buy a gun in America. So the gun lobby's even standing up for potential terrorists because they're so ideological. Now, everything I've said that we should do is supported by 92% of Americans and 85% of gun owners in our country. It is time for citizens, gun owners, concerned people from every walk of life to say, we can do this consistent with the Constitution, and I'm going to work on it every single day when I'm your president. Now, I want to say just a couple more things. You know, when you go to vote tomorrow, you're voting for a president and you're voting for a commander-in-chief. You need somebody who can do all parts of the job. And I want you to know this. I will be absolutely focused on doing everything I can to keep our men and women in uniform safe. And I will also support their families who also serve. And I will do everything I can to defeat ISIS and to stop the spread of violent jihadism from North Africa to South Asia. I know we've got to stay focused, to seize the opportunities, and to meet the challenges. But there is no substitute for American leadership. Anybody who thinks otherwise hasn't been as many places as I've been. Because I know people look to us whether they admit it or not. And we got to build coalitions. That's what I did when I put together the coalition to impose sanctions on Iran, including China and Russia. And that brought them to the negotiating table so we could put a lid on their nuclear weapons programs. We need to do more of that. And I want to say this. It's hard putting together a coalition. To defeat ISIS and these other terrorist groups, we need to have a coalition that includes Muslim nations, don't we? Right? So when you have a leading candidate for president on the Republican side who insults everybody, including Muslims, that makes the job a little harder. It's not only offensive, it's dangerous. It matters what you say when you run for president, and it really matters if you are president. So I need your help tomorrow. I need you to come out and vote tomorrow in the primary here in Virginia on Super Tuesday, to bring everybody you can, to talk to your friends and your neighbors and your colleagues about what's at stake in this election. Because ultimately, I want to do all in my power and means as your president to clear away those barriers, to help America live up to its potential, but to make it possible for every American, especially young people and children, to live up to their God-given potential too. I know how blessed I've been. I now have a granddaughter, and I'm going to do everything I can to make sure she has every opportunity. But I will tell you this, my friends, that is not enough. It is not enough that my granddaughter has opportunities. I want your children and grandchildren to have exactly the same opportunities to fulfill their dreams in our great country. If you help me, that is what I will work on every single day as your president. Thank you, Norfolk. God bless you.